Hello out there. This is Ron, all by my lonesome right now. So hopefully this thing's working. Don't have my steady assistant with me. But the daughter is sick, not feeling well. Hey, there's somebody out there. Oh, Cody's out there. Can you hear me okay, Cody? Okay. So thanks for coming and joining us, joining me anyway. My daughter Tegan, she's not feeling well today, so she's not coming over. My son Jarrett, he's still not home from work. So this is the beauty of everybody having a job. So I'm going to look real quick to see where he is while you all are joining on. Let me do my let me see if I can see where if the son's on his way home or not. And it looks like he is, so it won't be much longer before he's here. But in the meantime, I didn't want to hold off or anything like that, so we're going to go ahead and get started. And I hope everybody, or at least some of you, had an opportunity to come to RootsTech. For those of you who went to RootsTech, send out a like or something to let me know if there's any of you out there who got to go. It was pretty busy. There was tons of people. It was good to see everyone. I got to do Futures of FamilySearch a couple times, and I'm sorry for those who waited in line and didn't get to get into the class. I know there were lots of classes that were really interesting that some people didn't get to see. Like Robert Kerr was doing one on how to do some searching, and I know he gave it like 3 or 4 times, and still people couldn't all get into it. And Brian Edwards was doing one on how to use Ancestry.com and the records there to help out, and his class was pretty crowded. There were some good ones, some good LDS ones that Mike Sandberg gave, and talking about how to use memories to engage people into doing family history as a family. So it was really good. It was really exciting. I was wore out. It's taken me, I still am a little tired. My eyes are still tired from the whole thing last week. I don't know how long it's going to take me to get all back together again, but it was exhausting, but it was fun. It was good to see you all. I'm glad, and I hope those that didn't get to go, be sure and go to rootstech.org. They have the streaming information up there. It might be a bit confusing, so when you go to rootstech.org, you can scroll down and it says go look at streams. You click it and you'll see pictures, but the pictures represent a day, not that particular session. So pay attention to the words under the pictures, and if it says, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, then click the picture and you'll go into all of the recorded sessions for that day. And then you can watch each of those sessions. And there were some good ones. It was good to see Scott Hamilton came. Well, Scott Hamilton, yeah, the Olympic star came and he talked, and he was really good and inspiring. And Rockwood, of course, started us off on Thursday, and that was really nice. There was for LDS, there was a priesthood leadership meeting that was held Thursday evening, and they have that streamed and available for you to look at. And it talked about the role of consultants and the interaction between primary and missionary work, and I got invited to actually go in person to the priesthood meeting. It was really inspiring to sit there and listen to a couple of apostles and each of the leaders of the organizations, leader of the missionary department, the primary president, general president, and see all this. So it was great. So I hope you had a good time. As you remember, I said since my course wasn't being streamed, then I'll give the presentation. We're not going to do it today. I still got to figure out how to share slides during a Facebook Live. So we're going to do it next time. We're going to show my RootsTech presentation. So I'll give it to you. Won't be quite exactly the same because I tend to feed off the crowd. So there won't be a crowd, and you're not there to smile, laugh, or whatever. And so I'll do my best, but at least you'll get the information. All righty, let's see. I wish I had good enough eyes to see if there's anything out there people saying. But I usually have the daughter do that. I'd have to pull you closer. Maybe I should do that for a minute. So I could read it. All right. So David says it was his first time. And great. And Devon stopped. Oh, you stopped me in the hall. Yeah. I had a lot of people stop me in the hall and say hi. It was good to see you. And hello from Alabama to Jesse. And there was Matt Trotter. Yeah, he went to the leadership session too. It was really good. So I recommend looking at that one. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. And let's see. I've got on my phone the questions. If I have the right set, which I think I do. Let me see. Make sure I'm not on some funky part. Okay. Now, if you've heard these questions before, let me know or something so that I can go, oops, I'm in the wrong section. Hello from Tennessee there for Amy Wright. Yeah, all right. Oh, pulling it closer is better anyway. Yeah, I can see my face better, but you can't see my board if I have to write something, right? So it doesn't show. Oh, I guess I may even be better too. I don't know. We'll see. Okay, here's my first question that was submitted. It's from Bosch. It said, allmycousins.com is no longer working, and I loved it. Have you ever planned to replicate a tool like that into Family Tree? By the way, the tour showing FamilySearch building was very interesting. Thanks. Well, you're welcome for that little introduction into the FamilySearch building. It's a really great place to work. I really enjoy it there, even though the commute's further, but that's okay. I still like it. All My Cousins is a third party, of course. I went out there and looked at it just a few minutes ago, and it looks like it's up. I didn't log in. I didn't have time to log in and see if it's working. But the kind of things that All My Cousins do is sort of walks your tree looking for problems and duplicates and data problems. We kind of do that. We kind of do some of that, except for and they also do ordinances, walking your tree looking for ordinances. And we do some of that already. What you get on the home page when it comes to data problems or hints, we don't have the possible duplicates, and we don't have the ordinances right now, but we are working on those things so that we could tell you where you have possible duplicates or data problems in your tree. I think it does data problems, but it doesn't do possible duplicates. And that's because the possible duplicates is using an old system that we had back in the prior system days 10 years ago, and we're working on the completion of that. We hope to get that out. I think Robert talked a little bit about it. I think I talked a little bit about it as well in my presentation. We're hoping to get that done here in the next few months where we can release it. And once we see that that's working, the new system, I've talked before about how we're going to take the technology from the hint engine and we're going to use it to help us find possible duplicates. And it'll be quicker, and it'll be we know about it ahead of time, so we can we'll turn it on, we'll try it for a while. If it works really well, then we can start doing features like telling you all of the persons in some parts of your tree that need that have possible duplicates without you even having to push the button. So that's the idea. We'll get there. And then the other is ordinances. And if you notice, we've turned off the opportunities tab in Family Tree. That's because the home page now does that same work for you. It goes up 7 generations, down 2. And we're working on extending that and also looking for things like those that don't have possible duplicates and stuff like that you can go and get some ordinances. For those of you who have seen some of my presentations when I'm talking to mainly LDS audiences, so I can talk a little bit more about LDS temple work. We also have some other ideas that we're working on that will. What did I do? I think I just messed up and deleted the question, but I think it was all my cousin's questions. So I can go backwards. There we go. Okay, so so that kind of matches some of all my cousins' stuff. But I imagine all my cousins will come back up. I haven't heard anything about them going away, so they're probably just out for root tech or something. So that's the deal on that. If there's somebody out there that knows for sure whether All My Cousins is working or not, that'd be great to holler it out so we can tell people. Hello there, Sherry from Santan Valley in Arizona. We're finally warming up here. We've been cold. Got about 8 inches of snow in Provo. When was that? Middle of last week. No, it was before Rootstack. And then during Rootstack, the Saturday of Rootstack, after the last Saturday of Rootstack, in the middle of the night, we got like 6 to 8 inches at our house just that night. But it's warmed back up again. It was in the 50s today. It's supposed to be in the 50s all week, so snow's gone. And then Holbrook, Arizona, cousin. And pretty much anybody from Holbrook, Arizona is probably a cousin anyway for me. Okay, the next question from Tara. Says, please tell us about the new merge living feature and how does it work? And what can it help us with? What is the goal with such a feature? Well, someone pointed out the Find a Record does a lot of the same things as the All My Cousins, so you might want to try that. I think Wooden Village is another one that kind of does a bunch of the same sort of things too. So it gives you something to look at. Merge living persons. So there are occasions where you may enter some people, or you may have entered people, and then some system does something, or the records are entered in, and by membership, and then you go and type in stuff, and then things get put in your living area. And can be duplicates. There's people out there, especially those before who had to manually enter in their spouse's line, for instance, that could end up with some duplicates. So the idea there is for people to be able to merge them together, and so you don't have one copy in your private area. Now, that's just a side effect. I believe the real reason that we're going to do this and that we've done it, this is my plan, is that we're going to do the shared living area. If you recall, we've been talking about it for a while, and we're working on it. We're working on a prototype to try it and see how people really use it, to see if they will use it. But if you have yourself and you copy over, if you copy over some of your living into a shared family area, and then you invite your brother or your sister, they may end up copying the same people over. Okay. And so when they copy it over, then you will need to merge things together. You may have 3 copies of a spouse, or 3 copies of your living father or mother, a couple of copies of your brother or sister, and you just need to be able to merge that to clean them up together. There's another reason that's we hadn't even started on, that's far in the future, that we've been thinking about, that I think about it some. And that is, we want, there are people who've logged in in the past, didn't put in their membership number, and then they start entering people into the tree. And then later on, they enter in their membership number. And now we'd like to repopulate their tree using membership records. The reason why we'd like that is because if one of those members die, then we can tell the person, hey, this church has marked that person deceased, and have them say, okay, go ahead and mark them dead, and then we move it into public space. And the way we would do that is they entered in their living into the private area, and then later we would say, hey, you entered your MRN, so now we're going to redo your tree, but we're not going to delete anything that's already there, because you may have put in pictures and stories or added some data that membership records won't have. So what we would do is add to your home person a tree made up of membership records. So then you end up with 2 copies of spouses, 2 copies of children, 2 copies of parents, and you would want to merge them together so that you get the data, the data that you want from either side, right? So that's another reason why we're going to want merged living person in the future. So for shared family places, and for when we are going to allow people to, we'll want them to redo their line using membership records. And so those are a couple of reasons why we want that. And that's pretty much it. Then there's other reasons too. If you recall, we've talked a little bit about sensitive areas of the world where we need to protect the identity of people. And when we do that, if somebody is born or died in those areas, we'll take the deceased person and we'll put them in the private area. We do that to protect the living person from being detected because they may know the relatives. And you could end up with some duplicates there because of the number of deceased that are out there, maybe duplicates out there, and they get copied in, so you need to be able to merge them as well. Okay, so there's a little explanation of the merged living. It doesn't feel like a whole lot benefit, but there is some there. So the next question I have here is, are you aware that records for living people on tree are being imported into MyHeritage trees? And I hope that they would remain private to tree only. Well, that's from Lee, sent that statement in a question. And really what's happening with MyHeritage is it's not any different than Ancestry or Roots Magic or Legacy or Ancestral Quest. And I think Legacy actually was bought by MyHeritage, by the way, recently. So interestingly enough, but just like all of those tools, if you go to Family Tree and you say I want my tree, well, you get your living. You don't want to start without you in the tree in Roots Magic or Ancestral Quest or Ancestry.com. So all MyHeritage is doing is the same thing. When you go to MyHeritage and you say I wanna, and you log in because you get a free account. It's for LDS users, you get a free account, and for non-LDS, you don't get a free account, but you could. I think that they're still providing the FamilySearch connection. You just go in there and say, I want to create a new tree, and I want it to be a FamilySearch tree, and then it goes and looks at your tree on FamilySearch after you provide your credentials, and it just copies a fairly decent, healthy portion of that tree into MyHeritage, into your private area, so that you can then do work there. So I think that's all that's happening in MyHeritage. So that's not any different than what happens at Ancestry, because when you go to Ancestry and say I want to start a tree that's connected to FamilySearch, it does the same thing. It brings over several generations, including all your living, or over into Ancestry. So I don't know if I see the issue there, Lee. If you want to tell me more about why you would have an issue there. Okay, so next question. Kathleen says, in FamilySearch Family Tree, my great aunt Nancy has been attached to a husband and children I know for sure she didn't have. Someone added a husband, and her husband, they added a William Sparks, and her husband was Andrew Sparks, and they had no children. When I researched the other family, I saw that there was a Nancy May who married this other Sparks male, but they were on the other side of Kentucky at the time. The parents are correct, just not the husband and children. There is no merge that I can undo. It was just someone adding them to Nancy. How do I get these families separated? Okay. This is a good discussion, and it'll also go with somebody else said something about add additional. I'll talk about that one. The extra couples events. Okay, let's see if this is going to work. Okay, this is a good discussion to have to understand. First, I'm just going to talk about basic, what kinds of relationships are there in, I got to write it a little higher. Okay, what kind of relationships exist in Family Tree? There's only two kinds of relationships. There's husband-wife relationship. I have to go backwards, this is weird. So this is husband and wife relationship. We call it a spousal relationship. It requires both a husband and a wife. You remove one of those and that relationship is deleted. And then parent-child relationship, which has a child and then the father and the mother. Mother, there it is over there. That seems weird. I have to go backwards. I have to turn my head, see. So if you're going to fix a spousal relationship, so she's saying, how do I get rid of this? She says there's this man, William Sparks, that's married to the woman, and that he's not real, or he's not supposed to be married to her. So all you do is you edit this relationship and you just delete the relationship. Okay, so let me show you a little bit how you do that. You delete the relationship, sever that, or delete the husband, that whole relationship goes away. So how do you do that? Now, let me just write it up real quick. So if you go to the person page of the woman, you'll see down below it has the husband, the wife, and then down here it has child, right? And then over here it has little edit things, a square with a pin in it, square with a pin in it. That's a little edit button. You click that, and up will pop up a relationship screen. And this relationship, it has stuff like, you look on here, and it'll have things like remove husband, replace mother or wife, and it'll tell you when they were married and all this kind of stuff. So you just go in there and click remove if the husband is wrong. And by the way, there's probably another husband and wife down here, which is the real one that you want, that stays. And so you just go in there and say, get rid of the husband. Well, what I would do, since you want to get rid of the children, is click this one here first and get rid of the child. So this will come up, and you just say remove both parents. There's an option to say remove both parents. And then you go to this one, same thing, and say remove both parents. So now those children are gone. All right. And then you go to this husband or this wife, and you sever that relationship by saying get rid of the husband or get rid of the wife, either one. You're on this page, the wife's page. So I just go get rid of the husband. By doing that, you sever those relationships. You break the husband and wife, he'll disappear. You break the child and the parents, these children will disappear. Okay. So I hope that makes sense. Just remember, there's only two kinds of relationships: husband and wife, and parent and child. And when they show up in the list, I guess I should explain a little about that. If they're sitting here, husband, wife, child 1 and child 2, the only way that the only way that a child shows up is if there's a parent-child relationship that has both this mother and this father. Okay, and that's the same with child 1. And these could be gone, the children could be gone, and then the only reason these two are together is because there's a spousal relationship between them. Hey, Jared, come on in.
Okay.
Already started.
Right.
Told them you were coming.
I'm here. Sorry I'm late.
Oh, it's okay. You're a working man.
Yes, I am a working man.
So we won't put it so far away. Let me get it over a little bit, or this way a little bit.
Right, however you want. I mean, you're the one that they came to see. I'm just an auxiliary.
There. It's good to see you.
You see, and then I can come in here like this.
Yeah. I don't know. Okay, so I got the spreadsheet up on my phone.
Okay, well, I can open it up too.
Yeah, you got a bigger phone than me.
I do have a bigger phone. All
So
right.
I just answered the second or third question. If you want to pull it up. So anyway, any questions on that? Did everybody get that one? Let me read a question that was out there. Kevin or Tom Huber, yeah. Many of us recognize the need to add additional couple relationship events, such as date the marriage license was issued. Will the couple relationship area be expanded to include patron defined? We're struggling with that one a little bit. We had back in the old system, we allowed people to create events on the fly for things like marriage things, and we ended up with tens and hundreds of thousands of different events that were all different. And we're being very selective in which ones we want. When we talk to the chief technology office and say, well, people want like marriage bands or something like that, then he says, well, they're not really marriages. They're just a what would you call it? A precursor that they are intended to get married, but they may not have ever married. And so that's why we haven't done some of those things. We do have married and divorced and things like that.
So what was the last
Go
question
down
you
to the
answered?
blue line.
Okay.
I'm assuming you put the blue lines in.
Yeah, probably.
And before, the other line meant that everything above was done. So I went to right here, this blue line.
Okay. Yeah. So you've answered with how far down? Again, just one or two?
I can't read that. Go bigger.
You can't remember?
I can when I see it.
Allcousins.com. No. Merge living
That's
person.
on the third one.
You're on the third one.
The one that's the big one.
Okay.
Okay. So does that answer it now? So Tom, we
However, they are couple relationship events. Licenses are required in many locations. That's what it says.
I know.
Yeah.
We're still considering it. We are looking at a lot of people asked for not married or never married and did not have children. So we're actively looking into how we would do that. So
yeah, it seems interesting to be able to create a relationship that's really a non-relationship.
Yeah, well, we don't want to do that.
Yeah.
See, we don't want to create a couple relationships and say I created this couple relationship to say they were never a couple.
Yeah.
So I don't want to create a couple relationship if they're not a couple. So we're having to look at different ways for you to identify that and say that without having to create a couple.
But if I'm not mistaken, you may have already said this, and I apologize that I'm late. I'm trying to read. But if they both had a child and they was attached to it, that would be the way that they attach to each other almost. Because you could go, okay, well, this mother had a daughter, and that daughter had a father, right?
Yeah.
So that way they're connected. Yeah, and I see what Terry's saying. We need never married so people don't seal couples that we never married and never wanted to be. Well, if they don't have a relationship, then that would never occur.
Well, they had a kid.
Right.
So.
But anyway, we can move on.
Let's see.
She says they were parents, but they weren't married. Is there ever going to be a relationship option for cancellation of sealing? Ran into this recently. Really was difficult to resolve.
Yeah, no, there's not a. We're not going to allow people to click a button and say that. Cancellation of sealing requires first presidency approval. So that's just the policy. So we're not going to put a button that you can just click to do that.
Yeah.
So
that's heavy duty stuff. All right. So
what's the next one?
Kathleen Moore asks, thanks in advance for any help you can give me. In FamilySearch Family Tree, my great aunt Nancy Mays has been attached to a husband and children I know for sure she didn't have.
That's the one I just answered.
Okay, well then you should have told me that. That was the big one.
I did say the big one.
You said you were on the big one.
I'm on it.
That means that's the one.
That means I'm the one I was answering.
Semantics, folks. I can never get along with them sometimes.
I was on.
All right. Okay, great. Okay, so this one's from Michael. Michael asks two different questions. The first one is, well, this one maybe seems like less of a question, more like a comment.
Well, read the comment then.
I'm trying to. Okay, my machine is not, because it's formatted weird. I gotta figure out how to make that happen. Hold on.
You want to borrow my smaller phone?
No, I don't want to borrow your smaller phone. That's not the problem.
Okay.
Just give me a moment. The February 1st Ron said something.
The 1st of February live, Ron mentioned we'd have to re-index to link index only collections to images.
But there's a whole bunch more to his question.
And I think I remember reading this question, and it was, he says they don't really have to re-index it in order to put the images to the indexes.
Got it. Here we go. The February 1st live Ron mentioned we'd have to re-index to link only collections to image. Your little cursor messing me up. Image only collections. I've done FamilySearch linking before, which was actually a program FamilySearch uses to do exactly this. I'm guessing Ron just isn't aware of that team because then it's not publicized. Please let him know to ask his coworkers about it and bring it up in the future live.
Yeah. So same there.
Yeah.
So it doesn't have to be re-indexed to link it. They have a way to link it.
All right, and then his next one, he says, I'd like a report that shows time online, especially as an option in indexing reports. I know such a feature is possible as I've used apps or programs that can log time on specific sites or programs. Goals of time spent are more desirable than goals of names indexed for various reasons and circumstances. This would help decrease people just doing easy batches to get names and allow ward leaders to see something more representative of her when sometimes indexing 5 advanced project names is as hard as 30 easy project names. I would all cover the problem. It would also cover the problem that many volunteers index, but their batches expire before they get credit for the part they did.
I'll pass it on to the indexing team. It's certainly doable. We know how long you've been online.
Your little name, your little cursor thing, is blocking the stinking thing. Okay.
So anyway, I'll pass that on.
All right.
That's the next one.
Barbara asks, I've looked on Help Center and FamilySearch, but I can't find these questions answered. When you find a member in your family who died before age 8 but lived at least a few days and there is no name, under what first name do you seal him or her to parents? Can you seal a child who lived a few days to parents if you don't know the gender? Thank you.
I don't know for sure positive on the gender part. I think we look to see the ceiling is the same whether it's male or female.
Of course.
No, it doesn't. It says daughter and son, I think is what it's talking about. So the name part is you just leave the first name blank and put in the last name of the baby that lived, a couple days. If they're stillborn, then they don't need the sealing the parent. And I don't recall right now if we block the sealing the parent when you don't know the gender. I believe you have to know whether it's a male or a female. So just more research.
Yeah, I feel like that's something that just has to. I mean, there's some data that's irrevocable. You have to have a certain amount of data to be able to know a person existed, and I think that's just part of it.
Well, it tends to be because the ordinance refers to the sex of the person.
Right.
For the blessings they get. One other thing I need to mention, I had said in the past that I got corrected by our great support people who know this stuff cold.
Of course, there's a reason why you have a support team, and
it's when a couple had a child. The policy is they don't get sealed together if they never lived together. So one night stand kind of thing. Then the policy is you don't seal them as spouses.
Okay.
Yeah. So I wanted to clarify that. I had kind of left that out in limbo.
Looks like there's still plenty of discussion going on about the never married. Will the labels be expanded over time? If so, what types of events would be considered for a label?
Yeah, we wanted to hurry up and get this label stuff out so that you can add labels and take away labels. And now it works when you merge. Before, when you merged two people together, the labels wouldn't get moved over to the survivor. Now they are with this new service. And yes, we want to have more expanded labels. We're still working through the process that people can use to submit a request for a new label. We're not going to allow people to create labels on their own.
Yeah.
Since they're highly visible and they can be put on any person, we want to make sure the labels are appropriate and they don't offend, across the world. We have to think all the way across the world. And it's interesting when you think about it, one country's hero was another country's villain.
Right, it's true. The consideration is that this has to be a system that the entire world uses, right?
Yeah,
a lot of things to consider.
So I think there's plenty of labels that would be great labels to have. We always dream up more that we would like to have. We just haven't figured out the process yet, but we're working on it.
She mentioned that's a good idea. Linda had a reasonable idea in the live sketch to mention that they were never married and or never had children.
Yeah,
reasonable to put that.
I think we want it to be more prominent, and we're thinking about having a way to put it in. Right now, in my mind, the way my mind's working right now is that we put it in the other information category, and then if it's in there, like for instance, never married, and then you put a couple relationship in, will cause a data problem to pop up. It says, hey, it says they were never married. You went and put a couple relationship in, or
right.
Hey, you added a child.
Which one of these is true?
You added a child when there was a never had children conclusion.
Right.
So that's what we're thinking right now. So
and then two hard facts. I've heard two hard facts today and wonder if they were accurate. One, that 1 million names are added to the tree every day. And 2, more non-members are logging into FamilySearch than LDS users. Are these things true?
It depends on where you're looking. If you're talking about are there more members or non-members that go to FamilySearch.org, there's definitely more non-members. And the reason they're coming is because they get free records. So there are not more non-members going to Family Tree than there are members. There's more members going to Family Tree. So more members go to Family Tree than non-members, but more non-members go to FamilySearch.org for historical records than members.
No, so they just click on the records.
They just go do historical records and they do a search and
dig through records.
Dig through records and save it in their source box, but never come to the tree.
I see.
And there's a whole lot more non-members doing that than there are members that ever count.
Seems like we should connect those two activities.
Yeah. So that's part of the job.
And then how many names are added to the tree?
It's not 1 million. No, it's not 1 million. We do 3 million a month.
Well, that's significantly lower than 1 million a day.
Well, that's 1 million less. Oh yeah, it's not 1 million a day. It's 1 million, 3 million a month. So is how much gets added to the tree.
Easy to do the math. I mean, it's exponential. It keeps growing hand over fist.
It's like 100,000 a day or something.
Right.
Okay.
Well, the only other one in there is Karen Foster. I spend a considerable amount of time attaching records to people. Is there anything in the works about teaching computers how to attach documents?
Nope. We're not going to do that because this is an open-ended tree, and attaching the documents needs to be done by a contributor so that if somebody else disagrees with your attachment, they can contact you and talk to you. And if a computer does it, then who do you ask why you did it? Why did you do that? How are you related? Why are you messing with my ancestor? And it's a computer. That's not going to happen. So we have no intention of having a computer ever make conclusions or attachments in Family Tree. I know that feels good and it feels like it would be really nice, but in a community tree where we're all working together, it just, a computer is just going to slam through it and it's not even going to look. We're trying to give you good hints. We're trying to give you good suggestions, but ultimately it's your decision. These are your ancestors.
Right.
You're researching them. You know them. You understand them, and you'll recognize when a record that looks very close is not really your ancestor.
Right. Well, that's one thing to consider. I remember his mother. There was a record where her name was, what was it on the census?
Betsy.
Yeah, her name was Lexi. But because the census said it was Betsy, then it would be all messed up. Now, if for whatever reason the computer looked at that and said, well, then I'm looking for a Betsy Tanner, this isn't the right one, and it attached it to somebody else.
Oh, well, it actually would add a new child.
Right. We would never have known that record was something else because the computer did it. Or we never would have noticed that error was made.
Yeah, I would have just freaked out because there was a new
was
a new aunt.
Suddenly you have
a new aunt that I didn't know
whoa,
about.
Okay. Just so there's things to consider. I mean, I totally agree with you, Karen. It's you're looking at it and you're saying this would be so efficient, but will it be effective?
I'm sure it will, but we're not trying to hurry up and speed up, and we're trying to make it easy for you to do your family history, not for FamilySearch to do your family history.
Of course.
So
to go back to the list for a moment, let's answer one, and then Thomas will address yours. It says. Lisa McCole asks, is there any way to have a list of who's in our private spaces? In other words, a list of names we have added that are living. Yeah,
we're actually going to do that. If you know that there's the lists that are in the tree, and you can go to lists, and it usually shows like the things you're watching and stuff like that.
Yeah, right.
So there's a team. They're currently busy helping other teams right now get things done. But when they free up to go back to their own work, the plan that we're working on is that we're going to start enhancing the lists area. And one of the things we want to do is list all of the people in your private space, so you have a list. And then you can sort them and you can find the ones. Just like if you go up your tree and down and you are attaching records and one of the people in that record is living, but you want to attach them, it's going to create the living, but it's going to put it in your private space. It's not really connected in your tree closely without going up and down to get to it. And you can lose track of those. So that's why we want to put the list in, so you can just list it. Then you'll see the ones that go, oh, yeah, I remember that one. She's dead now, or she's deceased, and you can go mark them dead then they appear in the public space. So,
right.
Yeah.
So let's answer some of these. Thomas asks, patron deleted records. These cannot be discovered through any search routines. I was able to identify 18 of these records, some of which contain temple ordinance data. I don't want to lose it. Through a routine in Ancestral Quest. However, that was a one-time thing, and I have had the old PID on the Ancestral Quest side to discover these patron deleted records. Will a future search routine be able to find and examine not only these records, but optionally all deleted records, including merged deleted records? So basically, will search be able to search deleted or merged deleted records?
Well, we're not going to put that in the regular search because the intent of regular search is to show you what's in the tree now. But we've always intended to allow you to be able to find deleted records outside of going to the one who's remaining and then crawling through the merge logs. The ones that aren't merged, we can't help you there because they were done in previous systems, and we've lost the knowledge of that thing as an entity. Mm-hmm. So if two people were combined, that was what it was called in the old system, when you combine two people together. Because that combining, one of these days when I feel brave, I'll tell you about how that system worked when it went to combine, but I got to figure out how to say it in a way that
makes sense.
Yeah, that everybody can get it.
Because I'm sure it was not a simple way.
Well, and it wasn't accurate, is basically what it came down to. And so when we moved things over to Family Tree and started the change log approach, the combines didn't, in order for us to migrate over, if we were going to migrate all the combines and bring them over and have them all exposed as individual things, it would have taken us something like 3 years to migrate, which wasn't going to work.
Yeah.
So we decided we'd take the selectable summary data as the person and bring it over and continue from there. If you're a serious dig-inner like Tom is, and Tom sends me plenty of stuff on gift satisfaction and emails and things. If you're a digger-inner, you can kind of figure out where there might be people that were merged together incorrectly.
Right.
And then we can dig out and find out the ordinances and get them on the right people. I think the way you could detect some of that today by, you go to an ancestor and it has funky people. It has wives that don't really match, and it has extra kids that don't really match, and extra spouses that don't really match.
Right.
That's a good clue and there's nothing in the merge log that says it was merged. That's a very good clue that that person has munged in previous systems.
Mm.
And so what you do is you go off and you create a new person, and you move over the wives that don't belong, or you do the other way. You create a new person for your guy and move over the wives that are the wife that's correct and the parents that's correct and the kids that are correct. And then you put a not a match between the two so they don't get merged. And then you contact support and say, hey, I just created a new person to separate out this data that doesn't belong to this other group of ancestors. Can you go find the ordinances on this PID that belong to this PID? And then the admins can go in there and look at the qualifying data that was on the temple card, because we have that data. They can look at all the ordinances attached to that PID, see which ones match the guy you just created, and they'll move the ordinances over to that new guy.
Simple enough. Tom kind of mentions a follow-up comment. The patron deleted records could be done for a while in FamilySearch, not a previous system. And I think I can clarify.
Yeah, you're just talking about people that just hit delete back in the day before we stopped allowing delete unless you were the only contributor. And those we all know about. We just and we'll always know. We just haven't had the time yet to either do a search system. It'd have to be a search system because there's hundreds, probably 100,000 or more of those that are like that, and either that or a way for you to sort through a list. Sort it and look up a name or something like that. So we have to get a bunch of other things done first.
It's on the list.
It's stuff that we've wanted since the beginning of time, since before Family Tree even was conceived. When it was in its conception, we knew we needed a place. We called it, we nicknamed it the graveyard, where you could go and and see everything that's all the people that have been deleted, so you can say, hey, this is not right, and restore them back to life.
A lot of work.
Yeah, we haven't got there yet. We've got a few other things we need to do, like fix our possible duplicate system, which we talked earlier about. I think we talked earlier about, where we're moving from the hint engine. We're taking the hint engine and applying that technology to possible duplicates, and we're getting close in the next month or two to turn that on. And then we need to go build the new find system for the tree. The find system is a 10-year-old system that doesn't know about first name, last names, suffixes, and prefixes. It can't handle other languages besides Western, Roman Western names very well. So the team's working on rebuilding that whole process too. So we got some big things we need to do. The temple system is slow and it's running into trouble because of the volume of traffic. It's an old. We moved the code over, but we moved it over as a big blob. We got to split it up and get it scaling. That's going to take us most of the year, a little bit of next year to do that. Once we get those ones out, that's the sort of the last set of big stuff that we got to make it so it can scale. And so those things are higher priority, so we'll have to get to those first before we can do that.
Of course. So Pat asks, is your Roots Tech presentation going to be on YouTube?
Yes, what we'll do is we'll do a Facebook Live next time, I think is our plan. The next one we do. And I think Tegan was going to send out a message through the Facebook that we're going to do that the next time. But we're going to do it next time in a couple of weeks, and I'll give the presentation. I'll figure out how to share my slides, and I'll go through them with you. And then we'll do a little. I don't know if we'll do answer questions. We may just do it, and then the next time take questions from the slide deck. Because usually when I do a presentation like at Roots Tech, it's an hour-long class, and then I usually have an hour and a half of questions afterwards. And most of it's the stuff like what you do here on Facebook Live, but sometimes it's directly related to the slide deck. So we'll do that next time, and then anything we do on Facebook Live, we put it on YouTube, so it'll be out there on YouTube. I think the next Facebook Live planned, because Tegan and I sat down and figured that out the other day, is going to be the 22nd of March. So March 22nd will be the next Facebook Live. The plan is that's the night we'll do the Roots Tech presentation.
Okay. Well, so to jump into a question on here, trying to kind of bounce back and forth. I'm testing, Jim says, I'm testing a MyHeritage sync option with FamilySearch. I have some concerns, but I'm sure you know more than me. What do you think of it?
All right, so MyHeritage started a little beta and realized you're not messing with beta data. You're messing with production in Family Tree. So if you're going to go try the MyHeritage, don't goof off, because if you do, you'll change the real live production data in Family Tree. So the way and MyHeritage, what they're doing, we're going through their stuff. We're testing it on our end. We're using our beta system so we can put in bad junky stuff and see what happens. They're being very careful, and they have worked with me a lot. We sat down for many hours, gone through their algorithms to see if this will work or not. I understand the appeal of not having to look at each person one by one, although there's some disagreement right now, even in some of my peers, that there's still a lot of value in making sure there's eyeballs on both sides. But let me just take a few minutes and tell you basically how the MyHeritage synchronization is working. It's a one-button sync. You just push one button, it syncs everything that's in your tree with Family Tree. So, but I know when people have heard that, those that do most of their work on FamilySearch are a little uncomfortable. So let me explain how it works. So if this is MyHeritage, and this is Family Tree. So here's MyHeritage, and here's Family Tree. What happens is when you go to MyHeritage and say, I want to have a tree that's connected to FamilySearch Family Tree, it makes you create a brand new tree. You can't use an existing MyHeritage tree that you already have. You have to create a brand new MyHeritage tree. And then the first thing it does is it copies all of your data, not all of it. It's like 8 generations and 3 or 4 down. Copies them over to here, and puts them in a new tree on MyHeritage. This data is exactly the same as the data on Family Tree. Okay. So now, after you do that a little while, here, put the cap on that. Okay. So after you do that, then what happens? Let's say you edit it. Let's say you change this one and you make it different. Okay. That's purple one. It stands out a little bit. So you edit this one until it's different than what it is on Family Tree. And then you push the sync button. So what MyHeritage does next is they go and look at every person in this tree and they say, is it changed from what it was in Family Tree over here? And if Family Tree is newer, so if this is newer, let's say whether you made a change to this one or not, if this one's newer, it will overwrite that one. It'll copy on top of that one and blow away the MyHeritage version of it. If this purple one, if it's newer over here than the purple one, it'll wipe out the purple one with a new copy of Family Tree person. If the Family Tree side is older, so if this side's new over here, and the Family Tree person over here is older, then it will copy the data over here onto the Family Tree person. So for those who have some engineering background and recognize it as master-slave, where Family Tree is always the winner, always the master, MyHeritage is always the slave. So if a person is changed in both MyHeritage and Family Tree, then Family Tree wins and overwrites what's in MyHeritage. If MyHeritage is newer than Family Tree, then MyHeritage overwrites what's in Family Tree. Okay?
Right.
So you're always, the only time that a sync gets to change anything in Family Tree is if, one, nothing has changed on the Family Tree side since the last time you synced, and two, your stuff is newer on MyHeritage. And it goes by field by field. It doesn't just wipe out the whole thing. It says, oh, you changed the birth date in MyHeritage, and look at Family Tree and says, is the birth date the same that it was before, or has it changed? If it hasn't changed, then it'll overwrite the birth date from MyHeritage into Family Tree. If Family Tree has changed since you synced, it'll overwrite the MyHeritage one with the birth date from Family Tree. And then they give an extensive change log of the sync. They give you a sync log that shows you all of the data that was attempted to go over to Family Tree but were overwritten by Family Tree. So that you can say, well, mine's still better, and they're going to provide a way for you to say, let's still apply the change to my copy in MyHeritage. And then you'll have to do your other work and sync again. Okay. That makes sense? Yeah, makes sense. So it's pretty safe. I think it's worth trying. I mean, we're testing it. We were a little surprised. They kind of surprised us a little bit that they started inviting people to try it. We didn't know about it, but at least I didn't know about it. But they're very accommodating. They're a very good partner, and they're very willing to work with us to make sure we feel comfortable with this sync process. Of course. But from my perspective as an engineer, it's pretty solid. It's using basic engineering principles to make sure that the master is not corrupted. Okay. Yeah. What else?
Well, so we got some questions there. I know we're getting close.
Yeah.
Right. We've got some questions here. We got some questions there. I think maybe we'll take an opportunity to just answer some of these. So Carl says, I appreciate the feature on Find a Grave to suggest contributions that can be applied automatically after a period of non-response from the manager. Could a similar feature be added to memories to suggest questions to titles, descriptions, dates, places to improve information on a memory? Similarly, can management of a memory be inherited when the owner or uploader dies?
Yeah. We've been talking about bequeathing on memories. I don't know if we have to do that. Part of me, because memories right now are public, I'm inclined to do something like when a person dies, there's a link to their gallery on their person page. So if they die and they're made dead in the public tree, then you could go to their person page and there'll be a link to say, show me their gallery, and then you see all the pictures in their gallery. That's what I'm inclined to do instead of the bequeathing thing. because it's more complicated. They have to tell us who to bequeath it to, and
Right.
all that kind of stuff. We don't, and that's just more management. The other, which was corrections to memories data, we're actually discussing about making memories open editable, just like a person in the tree.
Okay.
The only place we may not make it. Oh no, we're thinking about open editable everything. So you can open edit the title, the description, the tag circles. You could change them. Open edit. The only thing we wouldn't change, of course, is stories wouldn't be able to be changed.
Right. Well, yeah,
because they're a personal thing. So we'll let you change. That's it. So that's what we're thinking. So let me know. Responding if you like the idea of memories being open edit. They'd have a change log and you'd be able to restore and all that kind of stuff, just like the tree. That way people can correct and update those things.
Why is the message you place in the live sketch field not protected? Anyone can come along and simply delete it without your permission. That's Robert Gibbons.
Yeah, that's the same way the whole tree is.
It's open edit.
It's open edit. If they deleted it or messed up with it, just go in there to change log and restore it back. So I'd send them a nice little message and say, why did you remove the live sketch? I worked hard on that and looked good, and it has all correct data. So please, update things if you feel that it needs to be there, but don't delete it. Maybe this person doesn't like seeing live sketches, and maybe you could teach them how to not show live sketch, and put it at the bottom of the page or something like that, because you can rearrange where those things appear on the page. And maybe they don't like it because they like to see the vitals at the top. You can maybe teach them how to rearrange it. The patron deleted records could be done for a while.
Yeah, we've already covered that one. Okay.
My merge mess.
Yeah, just some comments. Okay. So we can.
Got time for one more.
Yep, we got time for one more. So, let's see. Yes, on FamilySearch, when you are on the person page, you can click on the View My Relationship. I love that it shows you the tree, but is there a way to get the formal relationship? For example, second cousin twice removed.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd call that formal relationship, but it's the text version of how you.
I often get questions about how I might be related to a person I've added info to, and I often just send them a picture of the graphic that pops up, but I'd love to say the official title, and I don't really know the difference between a second cousin once or twice removed.
Okay. Well, I think I can try. I'll explain a little bit how to do that. And yes, we'll probably do it. If you notice on the mobile app, that you do View My Relationship on the mobile app, and the How Am I Related, all my relatives around me, it actually says fourth cousin 2 times removed or something like that. And we just wanted to experiment with it on the mobile to see how people reacted or like that and how it worked in all different countries, because that's the thing we weren't sure about, is those kind of relationships are different in other countries. Right. And we wanted to see the reaction from other countries and other languages to that feature and see if they felt okay with it, and then if they did, we'd start trying it on the site.
Of course.
So let me explain how you could calculate that. It's not that hard. So here's you, and you go up 1, 2, 3, and then this goes to 1. Them. Okay.
That would be an uncle or an aunt.
This would be a first cousin.
I wouldn't have been the same. Two layers down.
First cousin once removed.
I'm saying, all right.
Right?
You do it. I'm saying because this is 3 up, this should be 3 down, right?
Only if what if they're older than you? But I'll do that so I don't confuse you.
Thank you. Because I'm losing my mind over here. But let's not get too complicated now. It's the end of the day. Some of us are getting tired. Like me.
Okay.
Do how you like that.
Now, everybody out there who knows how to do this, correct me, because I often forget and do it wrong. So this is you, and you go up and you say 1 generation, 2 generation, third generation, and then you go down. So if they're on the same level as you, then they're 1, 2, third cousins. This is your third cousin, because you're 3 generations away, same as you. So they're third cousins. And then if they're a generation different than you, so like let's say they're here instead of here, then they're third cousins once removed. So the removed part is the generation layer. Since this is at the same level in the tree, this is third cousin, this is third cousin once removed.
And that could technically,
could be this way too. So this would be second cousins, because you have to go to where they match. So 1, 2, 3, so it'd be second cousins once removed. I think that's how that would work. So those out there who know better than me, because I always mess it up. I don't do it enough to know, but that's essentially how you calculate it. The once removed part is when you and that person aren't in the same generation.
Yeah, it's generational lines. That makes sense.
So, okay. Well, thank you very much. Boy, this hour went by fast. Seems like it does. Sometimes, most of the time it does. So that goes quickly. So thank you very much for everything. Mm-hmm. Remember, you can keep submitting questions. Oh, Tom says yes. That's right. Thank you, Tom. Tom knows. He knows his stuff. So yeah. I feel good. So I did it right. So, keep on going. Remember that our next thing is on the 22nd. We'll
you already looked it up. 22nd.
We'll post it again out there to remind you. We're going to do the Roots Tech presentation and continue to submit your questions. You can do it anytime.
Yep.
And thank you very much and have a great evening. We good?
Yeah, we're good.
All right.
See you guys.
See you later. Bye-bye.